Ducks fans, are you ready? You are listening to the Ducks and Pucks podcast with your hosts, Mike Walters and Eddy Jones. This is the #1 home for Anaheim Ducks talk and analysis. Here we go.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the podcast. We've been out for a little while, but we had a really exciting week of preseason. If you caught all the games so far, the Ducks have gone 4-0-1 in the first 5 games, Eddy. And we'll go over each of those games. We'll talk about some of the lineups, some of the movement between the minor league team and the Ducks, and answer some fan questions. But let's get to the games. I know everybody couldn't watch all of them. Some of them were on the radio. But the first game, the Ducks ended up losing. But they played pretty well in this one, Eddy. They came out swinging, getting some goals early. Ended up going into the overtime with a new 3-on-3. And unfortunately, the Ducks lost this one. But it was still a good game for the Ducks. The final was 5-4, Eddy.
Yeah, and this was when the roster was a little bit bigger, too. Nanen was still there. Freiberg was still there, too. And actually, that line with Sekach and Freiberg on it was really impressive in this game. Sekach catching a lot of people's eyes, scoring 2 goals, and they seem to be cruising. One Sekach scored in the third period, and Wagner scored right after to give him a 4-2 lead. But unfortunately, Skelly got a shorthanded goal, and then the Habs got a power play and tied it up, and got a little bit of taste of the 3-on-3 and the end-to-end action, and unfortunately ends up going against them. But it's not a lot of people could watch it, so you have to listen to it on the radio. But it's still exciting for the first game of preseason.
Yeah, some of the things that I noticed, obviously only by listening, not able to watch it, but it looked like the Ducks still had issue on the power play, Eddy, going 0 for 3. Weren't able to get anything done on that. They looked good in terms of, being physical. They had 25 hits. They also won the faceoff battle 30-22. So overall, it looked like the Ducks played pretty well. Just that power play is still kind of been an issue.
Yeah, and we hoped bringing in Paul McLean would help that, and they'd have a new look. And they've been sitting their mainstay of the power play. The main thing they're looking to do is sit a guy in front of the net, and Maroon was doing that on occasion. Nason as well as in the second game, how he was in front of the net as well. And there's a new look to it, but it hasn't seemed to caught on. And I mean, it's still preseason. There's a lot of different guys, and you haven't really got your power play unit set. They could change game to game. So I think we'd have to kind of wait till the first 10 games into the season, and see how it's shaping up then.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's just the preseason now, but just something to keep note of. Player-wise, some of the players that impressed me, obviously by what I heard, was Sekach, of course, scoring 2 goals early in the first and early in the third. Wagner played well as well in the game. He's been delivering hits left and right. He gets a goal in there. Basically, the rest of the team played pretty well in this game. I thought that they did good. I just thought that maybe towards the end there in the third period, they just couldn't quite hold on. Yeah,
exactly. And it was a weekend lineup. Like there's a lot of rookies in the lineup, and they slowly been cutting it down game after game. And obviously we'll get to it in a little bit. But the game yesterday, where it was pretty much everybody that you would see on a normal night. Kessler wasn't playing, Silfverberg, Cogliano, but we're getting closer to the main lineup, and the play from the recent games has been really good.
Yeah, exactly. And, the Ducks, after this game, pretty much went on a roll. The next one they played against the Kings, which, this game impressed me because the Ducks, as you mentioned, Eddy, still went with pretty much that whole training camp roster. And they didn't put in a lot of the big guns in this game against the Kings. And the Ducks were able to pull this one out. Getzlaf was in the game, obviously, but Perry sat out of this one. As well, and some of the other big name players were not in this game, but the Ducks were able to pull this one out 2-1. The last second goal by Maroon in the second period was the difference in this game. But I like the way the Ducks played against the Kings. And Eddie, every time that we're going to play the Kings, whether it's preseason or regular season, you're going to expect an intense game. And that's what we got out of this one.
Yeah, for sure. And the again talking about the power play, they did get a power play goal in this. But it was on I believe 6 attempts or 5 attempts where it took them to get one. So we're still looking for improvement on there. But like I said before, having Stefan Nason and Nick Ritchie, those are two guys you probably won't see on the power play come the regular season. So nothing to worry about there. But one guy who really impressed me in this game was Raquel. He was all over the ice, had 2 hits, 6 shots. He didn't record a point, but he played in almost 19 minutes of the game, and he just seemed to be everywhere, making plays and really impressive. And one big thing too is he seemed to add some strength in the off season, and he seems to be able to win more faceoffs. And I guess that comes from the experience of playing with Ryan Kessler and Getzlaf, and being able to learn from those guys and improve in areas that he needs to improve in.
Definitely. I mean, he looked very good playing at the center position. When I talked to him at the golf tournament, that's what he wanted to do. I asked him about the wing position with the added new centers, and he said he felt more at home playing the center position than the wing. Obviously, he would do that if he was asked to, but he looks good. Who else looked good too was Frederick Anderson. Stopped 24 or 25 shots, played well again in net, looked solid, and just really, kept it out of the net. He looked good in this game against the Kings. The Kings came in with some pressure, as they always do. We always know that they're going to get that forecheck going against the Ducks, but they look good. Jackman did get knocked out early in this game. He took some stitches to his head and was out. But, the reports we've seen from then on, he's been okay, Eddie. But it's kind of what you expect in these games against the Kings. You're going to get, fisticuffs going and pucks flying and sticks in the face. And that's just Ducks-Kings hockey.
Yeah, man, that continued into the next game too against the Sharks, and we got to see our first sighting of Anton Khudobin in between the pipes, and he had a great game. He only let in one goal on 24 shots, and the Ducks ended up winning this one late in the third period as well. And just another gritty performance, and good goaltending and great defense and penalty killing by the Ducks. And Wagner obviously gets his first goal of the preseason in this one, and Perry ends up get one in on the power play, and Shea Theodore picks up his first point of the preseason. Obviously, he's not on the roster anymore, but hopefully we'll be able to see more from him in the AHL this season. But just another good game, and being able to pull out a win.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was a good game. They came out a little slow in the beginning, and then turned it on in the third period. Like you said, scored those 2 goals. The last one by Perry there on the power play to get the Ducks the win. And obviously, this was on radio, so it was a little bit more difficult to evaluate the way that the game went. But from listening to it, the Ducks they won in the faceoff circle 28-20, dominated in the hits 33-23. Looks good overall, and you have to be impressed with Anton Khudobin. Stopped 24 shots, or I'm sorry, 23 of 24 shots in this game, and played really well. And we'll talk about another game, but he's really impressed me so far in this preseason, Eddie.
Yeah, but this is a guy who had to step in for Rask when he went down in Boston and played well, and stole the starting job in Carolina at times from Cam Ward. So this is a guy who has the potential to be a starter and to push Anderson and come in, and something we haven't really had for a while is a guy who can come in and play at an equal or better level of the starting goaltender when needed. And we see in the next game against LA, he has even better game, and he stops 31 of 32 shots, and it's great being able to put another guy in. Nothing against Gibson either, and it will be great to see him mature and get better in the AHL this season. But being able to have these two guys, Anderson and Khudobin, is going to be really beneficial to the Ducks this season.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, moving along, when the Ducks played the Kings again, beat the Kings again 2-1. So I know everybody's happy with that. It's only preseason, but we all love to beat the Kings whenever we can. So in this game, it was the same result, a little bit different type of game. This one had a lot more physicality in it as compared to the first one. Obviously, Lucic got introduced to, I think, almost the entire Ducks team. I know Wagner had some fun saying hi to him. Manson scrapped with him. We had those videos up on the Twitter and on the game recap. I've been trying to get more videos up when the games are on TV and I'm not there in person, obviously. So those are up there if you missed that action. But this game probably was the most exciting one, I think, Eddy, so far, even including the win against Colorado that we're going to talk about in a minute. But this game was intense all the way through. I thought the Ducks came out really, really strong in the first period, played pretty decent, and then really turned it up and on in the second period. And that's when we saw all the penalties and everything going on. I think Manson and Lucic going at it kind of got the Ducks energized. And you even saw, a lot of people were laughing about this, Eddy, but you saw Bieksa, of all people, stand up for Corey Perry against Clifford. I mean, I couldn't believe I was tweeting that out during the game.
Yeah, well, it's looking at their history, but we talked about this when Bieksa was first acquired, that he's not afraid to drop the gloves, and this was a gritty game, 13 penalties in total. Just a very physical game. I mean, obviously two fights in Manson and Lucic and Bieksa and Clifford, and then Perry. But it's crucial for him to get off to a good start and be hot going into the season, and picking up two more goals in this game and playing on a line with Raquel, and was really beneficial too. Raquel picking up two primary assists in the game and off a really nice feed on the OT winner as well. So, great for him to get off to a good start. But picking up two wins against the Kings in preseason is always nice.
Yeah, exactly. And the overtime is very interesting watching it. And this one, the Ducks went with Perry, Raquel, and Fowler, and the Ducks owned the puck from the moment off the faceoff. They won the faceoff. They worked it in, did the cycle, found Perry in front of the net all alone. He bangs that one just right over the shoulder and in for the game winner. And I don't think Enroth could have saved it, but he missed it. But I think it's a big deal in the overtime. Two things that I notice, Eddy, is one is winning that opening faceoff, and two is not making a mistake. If you get down there and you take a wild shot or a bad pass, and then big rebound comes, the other team's going to come down the ice and either have a 2-on-1 or a 3-on-2. So if I'm the coach, my strategy is, hey, let's get the puck down there, make the smart passes, try to get somebody open, and finish it just like they did right there.
Yeah, I think the players are just getting used to it too. There's not many opportunities where you get to play 3-on-3, and it's a new thing that they have to get used to. But I think it suits the Ducks defensemen especially, and having three guys and Lindholm and Vatanen and Fowler who are offensive minded and good skaters. That's always going to help, and they're great defenders as well. So having those guys out there with they've been experimenting with Perry and Getzlaf and Raquel and pretty much everybody in the lineup, putting them out in that 3-on-3 situation. And we saw that last night too, where they had a bunch of different lines out there. Obviously, it didn't work out there, but a lot of chances to end it. It just Lindholm hit the crossbar as well, and they just they just couldn't finish it.
Yeah, we'll talk about the Colorado game now, might as well. This game kind of surprised me, Eddy. Not that the Ducks won, 3-0 and took out Colorado. I thought that they could take them down, but I was just kind of surprised with the first 20 minutes. I don't know if Colorado was tired or what, but the first period they looked really sluggish. The Ducks outshot them 18-6 in the first period. I mean, obviously Colorado pushed back in the second period, but I was just a little surprised. I thought maybe Colorado would have came out stronger in this game, but I was impressed with the way the Ducks played in this game. A newcomer, Horkoff, getting the first goal there in the first 3 minutes. And then just 2 minutes later, Santorelli, another newcomer, getting a goal. And, Hagelin finishing it off with an empty netter in the third when Colorado had pulled their goalie. But this one was a well-rounded performance for the Ducks. They had a little bit of a lapse in the second period, which we've seen. They kind of gave up some forechecking ground and whatnot, but overall they played well, enough hits. They won in the faceoffs again in this one, 33-22. They only had one power play and they didn't score, so it's not a big deal. This game was a lot more vanilla, I would say, compared to the Kings game where you had all these fights and hard checks and everything. In this game, we only had 3 power plays, Eddie.
Yeah, but I'll take it. They continue their good penalty kill in the preseason, which is good to see. If we can increase in at least one area in special teams will be nice. But we still gotta hope that power play can be better this season. But I wouldn't mind seeing a lot of these types of games during the season. I mean, it wasn't anything too exciting. I mean, that first period they dominated, and then Colorado slowly fought their way back into the game. And you still got to give it to Varlamov too. He had a great night as well. And unfortunately, we couldn't see Gibson all the way throughout, so Kudobin had to come in the third period, and he finished off well as well. So these types of games are always nice to see. They kind of different tone, like you said, from the game against LA with a bunch of penalties, only having 3 penalties in this game, but getting all 3 new guys getting on the board was nice to see with the Horkoff and Centerelli and even Hagelin getting the empty netter there. And this being his first preseason game, he didn't stand out significantly, but there's a couple times where you got to see the speed that he possesses. There was one chance where Getzlaf got on the puck on the wing and he just blew by Tyson Barrie and got a pretty good shot on Varlamov. So it's nice to see him in his first game in a Ducks uniform.
Yeah, and I think he lived up to what everybody talked about with the speed. That was his first game, as you mentioned, and he's going to be in the next game. At least that's what we've heard so far. Gibson, for those of you that were maybe missed the game or didn't hear, looked like he left the game with an illness, and pretty much it wasn't anything too serious from what the Ducks are saying. So he may not be in on Saturday's game. We're assuming he's going to get sent back down to San Diego here shortly. But one interesting note in this game, and a lot of people are talking about it, other Ducks media blogs as well are talking about it, and is Perry and Getzlaf not being on the same line. Last night they had Getzlaf on the top line with Stewart and Hagelin, and then you had Perry on the second line, but obviously Cogliano and Kessler weren't in there. So, I try not to make too much of the preseason stuff, Eddie, but people are asking, so we want to address it, of course. What do you think about Perry and Getzlaf not being on the same line, if the Ducks are going to do that to start the season?
I think it's just more so experimenting. I mean, Getzlaf and Perry played on the same line for a long time. They don't need games in preseason to warm up to be able to play together. So I think Boudreau's just kind of changing it up, looking to see what types of lineups he can get at different situations. Maybe if Perry or Getzlaf goes down, or if he feels like he wants to split them up at any time in the season. He has an idea of who he can put with each guy and who will play well together. We saw Raquel play really well on a line with Perry, and we saw last night Getzlaf and Stewart had some success on that first line. So I mean, I don't think yet that you can't look too much into it. I would expect them to start on the same line to start the season. We might even see it in the last preseason game here with probably Kessler and Cogliano and Silverberg checking back into the lineup. So I think we'll see more familiar lineups coming into the Saturday game against San Jose.
Yeah, I actually liked it. Perry on a different line than Getzlaf was interesting to me. I liked Hagelin, Stewart, and Getzlaf together, and we had heard that they had been skating together in practice, so I liked it. But I think you're right. I think the probability of it happening every night is probably slim. I still like having the second line with Kessler, Hagelin, and Silverberg if that's what they're going to do. I just think that you can't really break that up. Or maybe you put Cogliano on that line and then Hagelin on the first line with Perry and Getzlaf, something like that, like we've talked about before. So I do like what they did, splitting them up, but like you said, I just don't see it happen on a regular basis.
Yeah, and that kind of takes us in a little bit into the roster situation now with the Ducks, and recently Brian McGrattan, who had just been recalled from San Diego, has been sent back down, and along with Freiberg, Hackett, Case, and Scarbosa have also all been sent down, and that leaves the Ducks now with 18 forwards, 9 defensemen, and 3 goalies, and just today Holzer and Mueller were put on waivers, so once they clear and they'll be eligible to send down, the Ducks will have 28 guys. So we're looking at probably a decision between Ritchie, Wagner, and Manson is what is going to come down to, and one of those guys is going to stay up. Who do you think? Who would you want to stay up, but who do you think has the most? Who's most likely to stay up?
Yeah, we talked about this before, and this has been a topic as well with a lot of people as far as who's impressed, people like Richie and people like Manson and people like Wagner. And this is a difficult decision for the coaching staff, I'm going to tell you right now, because you're only going to be able to keep one of these three guys. And it's tough. I think part of it is the contract situation. We talked about this, that plays into it. Richie and Manson are still entry level contracts, which basically means that they're waiver exempt. They can go up and down between the teams, and nobody can claim them. Wagner is not waiver exempt, so if he gets sent down, there is that 24-hour window where he could get picked up by somebody. And we talked about Bickle getting sent down for Chicago. So if Bickle gets sent down and doesn't get picked up, then I don't see Wagner getting picked up. And Eddie, I know we kind of agree on that. But it doesn't mean that that he won't get sent down. So it's tough. For me personally, people know this. I like Manson. That's the one who I would keep up. He played on the team the most last year. Obviously, Stoner has his situation. We know he's going to court on the 9th for the whole bear issue and all that. And, I don't know how much of a distraction that's going to be. It's the day before they play their season opener against the Sharks. So that may come into effect there, and they may want to have that seventh defenseman. And maybe they'll have Manson in instead of Stoner on some occasions. That's kind of what I look like. If I was to pick it, I would put Wagner and Richie down and keep Manson up. But it's a tough decision, Eddie. What do you think?
Yeah, it's tough. There's a couple guys you look at of the 30 left that are going to be sent down. Obviously, Gibson is going to be sent down. You'd expect Joe Pascual to be sent down. Ken Helgensen's another guy you would expect to go down. So when you look at, like we said, with the three guys that we have to pick from, I mean, Richie is the guy you would expect to go down. He's on an entry level. He's not going to have to go through waivers. He's the youngest of the three. He doesn't have any NHL experience where the other two guys do. So, sending him down, even if his play has been good, but sending him down doesn't hurt, and him getting a full AHL season under his belt can only help him. So then it comes down to Wagner and Manson, and obviously with Holzer being sent down, and more than likely Pascula going down. If you choose to keep Wagner up, then you have 14 forwards and 6 defensemen. And, it's never great to go into a season with 6 defensemen. It's not as big of an issue this year with the team being so close, with the AHL team being so close. Now that it's not a big issue to call a guy up, but, one guy's already going to sit. Probably Jackman in most situations, depending on the game. So if you keep up Wagner, then you've got two forwards sitting each game, and you don't have any options if on defense if a guy needs to sit or he's hurt. Then you got to send. Eventually, you'd have to send down either Jackman or Wagner to bring up Manson. So I think the realistic option is probably to keep Manson up, but then there's also the chance where he has to sit, and then does that stunt his development if he can't play every game, and then a lot of people want Stoner to sit, but then you've got a healthy scratch that $3 million contract. So, a lot of decisions to make here, but I definitely like to see Manson, come up and maybe even start in that 6 defenseman slot.
Yeah, I think you're right. It gets down to Wagner and Manson, and I mean this is extremely tough. I mean, I like Manson, I like Wagner too. I mean, Wagner can hit, and with the best of them too, he's good in the face-off circle. If he comes up, the Ducks. We talked about this. They're going to have 6 centers if he stays up. You've got Nate Thompson that's still out, but you've got Getzlaf in there. You've got Horkoff, Kessler, and Raquel, and then you've got the added Santorelli in there as well, and then Chris Wagner. So, I mean, you're going to have all these centers, which that's not a bad thing either. We talked about this too, Eddie. If you can roll out a lineup with 5 or 6 centers, that's not bad because, as we've seen, Wagner can play wing, Santorelli can play wing, Horkoff can play wing. So you do have some options. It's always good in the face-off circle to have backup centers, either not just necessarily on the lines, but also when you're shorthanded too. Sometimes you want to have 2 centers out there and 2 defensemen, to take those defensive zone face-offs. So it's tough. I think because of the contract situation, I'd lean towards Manson though. But I'm just glad I'm not the coach right now, Eddie. It's a tough decision.
Yeah, and if you go off play too, I think Manson deserves it. And like you said, having playing 28 games last season, he has the most experience out of the three guys. So, I mean, if you polled everybody right now, I think the majority vote would be Manson. And I think we all hope he gets a shot, and we'll just have to wait to see. I think Saturday's game and the lineups in that game might give us more of an idea, and we'll just have to wait until the final roster is set.
Yeah, this kind of brings us to some of the fan questions that we've had going on about the preseason lineups and what's happening as far as who do we like staying up and down. We've already touched on this already, talking about Wagner and Manson, but one of the guys, Aaron, asked in the preseason, which three players do you think have stood out so far? And we've talked about this. It's kind of tough, Eddie, to pick three, but I would say pick three or four. I mean. And see who you like, and then I'll give you my three. I know we kind of agree on a lot of them, but who would be at least three of the players that you think stood out so far in these 5 games?
Yeah, and if you take their performance across all 5 games, barring one or two games where they've played well and kind of been non-existent in the other games, I think the first guy you'd have to go with is definitely Josh Manson. I mean, he's had an incredible preseason so far. He fought Milan Lucic. He's been a physical presence. He's been defensively sound. I think he's really shown that he's ready to play at the NHL level. And from the interviews, he seems to feel like he is ready to play and that he deserves a spot on this roster. And his play has shown it for sure. And I mean, if you had to pick somebody else too, I think Anton Khudobin has been really impressive as well, putting up two really good games against LA and San Jose, and then coming in relief against last night in the third period against Colorado and shutting them out in that third period. He's been great to have in the lineup, and being able to have that second option there is always nice as well. And if you got to pick a third guy, you go to a four. There's a lot of guys who've kind of stood out. I think Nick Ritchie's play has been good. Sekach had a really good first 2 or 3 games. But in my opinion, I really like the play of Raquel so far. I think I mentioned it earlier how he's gotten bigger and he's improved his face-offs, and I think his playmaking ability was never in question. But some of the passes and plays he's making this season are a lot smarter, and there's a lot of creative play coming from him. So I like what he's been doing so far.
Yeah, I agree with you pretty much on everybody. For me, the one that stood out the most has been Hudobin, just because of his play in the net. He's only given up 1 goal in each of those 2 games, and as you mentioned, he came in the last period and shut him out. And he's looked really, really good. And this is going to be a huge bonus for Frederik Andersen. He's going to push Frederik Andersen. Frederik Andersen is still going to be the #1 goalie. Don't worry, fans. He's going to be the guy. But Hudobin is going to play a lot of time this season. You watch. He'll play in the back-to-back scenarios as most teams do, rotating those goalies in and out. But, Eddie, we're going to see him in some of these games. We may see him against the Kings. We may see him against the Sharks, Chicago, some of these tougher teams. He's played phenomenal so far. And I know it's preseason. I know it's early, but he's played well, and I think that he's going to continue to do well. A lot of people knocked him when he was at Carolina. But you got to look, he was at Carolina, okay? We're talking about a completely different team and a completely different defense in front of him. Now with this team defense, I think he's really going to help out the team. And the big thing is him getting to play more games will keep Frederik Andersen fresher down the stretch. So to me, that was one of the big ones. And I agree with you also. Manson, of course, people have heard it a bunch of times. He's one of my favorite of the newer, young, and upcoming players. I like the way he plays. He left a shiner on Lucic's face. There was some debate if it was a glove or if it was a stick. I don't really care. He left a shiner on Lucic's face, so that made my day because in Kingsland, Lucic is supposed to save their season, supposedly. I don't know where they come up with this, but that's a pipe dream. So it was nice to see Manson do what he did in there. I mean, I don't necessarily think he won the fight, but I think it was a pretty good, even bout. And if you watch the video, they went for a good 60 seconds. And if anybody knows about fighting, 60 seconds is a long time for a fight. Most NHL fights are, 10 to 30 seconds. So that was a good one. They even broke apart and came back at each other. So if you go on the YouTube, you can see that, and our game recap too. I like Sekach too. He had the 2 goals in that game, and he's played well. He's kind of cooled off a little bit. But I like his speed and what he's done when he's been given a chance on the higher up lines. And I like Wagner too. The check he put on Lucic, it's gotten like 2 or 3 thousand views already on YouTube. Everybody's been going crazy over that play. So I like his physical play always. The way he is in the face-off circle, no doubt. And of the current, I guess if I go with current players, I'd go with, like you said, Raquel with his face-off circle ability. He's been getting a lot of assists as well. And I can't leave out, I know, I mean, it's a given, it's Perry. But, when he double tapped the Kings for those 2 goals, Eddie, that just brought a smile to my face because Patrick O'Neill was on the TV talking trash on Perry and the Ducks. So I loved it when Perry scored that winning goal because, just to show him, hey, it's still Perry, and a lot of people don't like Perry, but you know what? If he's on your team, you love him too. So I was glad to see Perry do that, Eddie.
Yeah, exactly. And we're just gonna have to see how the next game goes. And the season's only a week away, so it's getting closer every day. And I mean, a lot of people are just finally happy that it's October and that we get to watch some. Even if it's preseason, we get to watch some hockey again. And I know everybody at Ducks and Pucks is gonna be keeping an eye on their fantasy for fantasy team for this year. And it's just great to have hockey back finally.
Yeah, definitely, and you can tell everybody's been really into it. This is the first year actually, Eddie, that we did game previews and recaps for preseason games. I wasn't gonna do them, and then I thought, well, maybe I'll just throw them out there, and the response has been huge. And fans are so into it right now that when those 2 games were not on the radio, Eddie, all I kept getting is, where can I go stream this? Where can I find this? And people were upset, and rightfully so. I'm glad that the fans here are so pumped up that they want to watch the preseason games. And even the game I went to with my wife against the Kings, that was an intense game. The I think the stadium was sold out. I only saw a couple empty seats. So, I mean, that's really good for a preseason game, Eddie. There's just a lot of momentum in the fan base right now.
Yeah, which is, it's always nice to see that a lot of people don't always show up for preseason games, but the reaction that we've seen on Twitter and on Facebook and anything is, everybody's really into it and pretty much acting like it's the regular season, getting into the guys getting sent down and who's still in the lineup and who's gonna stay up and how's the lineup gonna look. Everybody seems to be really into it, so that's always nice to see.
Yeah, one other point too I like to make about this, Eddie, is with the lineups you've seen the games, and last night was probably the one with the most regular players that was in it, but obviously they're not all playing every single night. But I think it's big. The Ducks really stressed starting well to open the season, and I think going 4-0-1. Yeah, I know it doesn't mean anything. There's no points and yada yada yada, which some people are talking about. But you know what? If you have a strong preseason like that and everybody gets that feeling, it's contagious, and guys that have come to this team, Santarelli, Horkoff, Stewart, they all know, we all know why they came here. They know why they came here. And the way that this team has been playing right now, yeah, they're not blowing out teams. They've won 2-1. I mean, obviously they took out Colorado last night, which was a good way to get that game done. But overall, though, they've been playing really well. I've only seen a couple little things that we talked about, a couple second periods here or there that are a little bit iffy, a couple power play games where but again, it's not the full unit, so I'm not going to be too critical of it yet. But I like the way the team's coming together. I think Horkoff's figuring out the system. Santarelli's figuring out the system. Stewart, Hagelin, they've all talked about that. Coming as an adjustment because they've all come from different teams, mainly Midwest or the East Coast. Type styles of games. So I think that's a little bit we may see in the beginning of the season, Eddie, is some adjustments. But overall, from the Ducks, if I was to give them a grade, I'd give them an A for the way the preseason play has gone so far, Eddie.
Yeah, they've been really good getting the after that first game, winning the next 4 in a row, and if they can win this one on Saturday and move into the season on a hot streak, it's going to be great for them to go in that way, and it's going to be a tough first few games in the schedule, but I think they're ready for it. They look like a sort of a different team this year. They look like they believe, and they've got the close is not good enough on their shirts and preseason so far, and I think that they really show that they mean it, and they think they can go all the way this year, and obviously a lot of other people do too. EA Sports predicting the Ducks to win the Cup. Sports Illustrated also predicting the Ducks to win the Cup. So hopefully they're right, and we get to see the Ducks lifting the Cup at the end of the season.
Yeah, I like those predictions, Eddie. We predict that the Ducks are going to go at least to the Stanley Cup final if they can stay healthy. I really believe that they can go that far. There's really no reasons, especially with the way everybody's playing right now and working out. So it looks really good. A couple other notes: if you've gone to some of the games, you might have seen some of the updates on the stadium. First of all, I know Eddie, you can't go because you're all the way over in Toronto, but for those of you that are here and have gone to the stadium to see the scoreboard, I have to tell you, it's just ridiculously huge. It's awesome. It's like we talked about, the two bigger screens face the benches and the press boxes, with the smaller screens facing the goals. The picture is high def, totally clear. I was joking during the national anthem, saying that, hey, you could see the zit on the singer. There wasn't one, but I was just, you can see everything on this screen. It's just crazy. During that game, I even caught myself watching the screen half the time instead of the game, because it's just really good. So those of you that have not gone to the game, when you go and you watch the game, yeah, you're gonna probably watch some of it on the scoreboard, Eddie, because it's phenomenal.
Yeah, and I've seen it from just the three games that have been on TV, and from some of the pictures, and it just looks absolutely massive. I mean, I went to when I went to the game at Honda Center a couple of years ago. I remember seeing the scoreboard, and comparing from memory, the size of the new one is just crazy. And they're putting a new one in at the ACC, which is close to me, so I'll have to try and compare the size in those two. But yeah, like you said, it just looks massive now.
Well, what they did too on that first preseason game against the Kings, they put up the old scoreboard on the screen of the new scoreboard to show you how much bigger it was. And I mean, the screen is like, I want to say 4 or 5 times bigger than the old one. So I mean, it's just phenomenal. And if you sit on those seats, facing, like I said, the benches or the press, you're gonna have an awesome screen to watch the replays and whatnot during the game. So that's really awesome. Another thing that they added is they added 4 seats in between the benches. And what I've been told is that part will be used sometimes for NBC when they come and they have, Brian Emblem or whoever down there in between the benches. Maybe Brian Hayward too for some, I don't know for sure, but they'll have some media down there, but they also have the seats for sale. I don't want to quote the price because I'm trying to figure it out, but I've heard it's a ridiculous amount of money for those 4 seats to sit down there. But that was another added addition, Eddie, and it's pretty interesting. Now that they have the wall removed right there and they have the rounded glass, so I'm sure the Duck staff will have it down in case it breaks. The Kings, I guess, kind of had an issue the other night with their glass, but it looks good, and I think it's going to be exciting to see, maybe some camera angles from down there, Eddie.
Yeah, I know. I've seen a couple pictures of those seats, and it's interesting to see. But like from what I've heard from you and some other people, is that like you said, they're just extremely expensive, and we'll, well, you'll have to find more information about that, I'm sure, and see exactly the price that they're gonna be. But it's getting closer to the season, and I think we're all hoping that the Ducks start off strong, and we get to see the Ducks lifting Stanley Cup at the end of the season.
Exactly, and along that line, this year we're going to be doing some watch parties. I've got 3 confirmed already for the month of October. For the October 10th game, the season opener against San Jose, we'll be at El Ranchito Restaurant in the Orange Circle. That's at 182 South Orange Street in the city of Orange. So be there on October 10th. We'll be giving away shirts. Right now, tentatively, I have Phil Hewitt coming, unless he gets called away for something else, but hopefully he will be there as well. And we also have the 22nd and the 26th, which are coming up later, and I'll send out some other reminders. I'm going to write up a little article. We'll have the menu on there for you and whatnot. But we're going to do I don't know how many this year yet, but the manager there is a huge Ducks fan, so I've been working with her. It's a place that my wife and I like to go pretty often. So we're going to be doing our own watch parties. We'll have those going for October 10th, the 22nd, and the 26th. So that's 3 we will have in October. And then we'll see about November, December, and how those work out. The Ducks kind of have a lot of home games to begin the season, so we may have more later on. And also, don't forget, we're giving away tickets to the home opener on the 12th against the Vancouver Canucks. If you listen to the last podcast, we mentioned a keyword. We're going to mention another keyword here tonight and then in our next one. And basically, the 3 words are going to make up a phrase. When you figure out that phrase, you just email it to us at info@ducksandpucks.com. We'll give you the time and frame and everything. Make sure everybody gets a chance to enter it in, and then one random person will get 2 tickets, aisle seats actually in the 400s to go to the game on opening night. So follow us on each podcast. Listen for that. The word for this show is going to be go. So Go, the word go. If you listen to the last one, you heard the last word, and then we'll give you another word in the next one, and we'll pick a winner, and that'll be it. But keep following us. We keep trying to do more and more things. I know the expectations have gotten higher, Eddie, and I think we're doing a good job, but it's exciting, and we'll see you all this coming week and the rest of the season.